Hi, I'm Kristin Omdahl. I love to make jewelry. I've done lots of patterns on making crochet and knitwear jewelry, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to make a variation on the Tunisian wire cuff bracelet that I've done before. This is one color of Tunisian double crochet in a black wire. I've also done it in silver. I've done it in gold as well. Can't find that one though. I think I might have given it. That's another thing. Crochet and knitting wire jewelry is a fantastic gift. I've yet to give one of these bracelets to someone and them not be super happy. Here's one that I did with beads on it. All of these are free patterns on my website. And today what I thought would be super fun is to do a technique of crocheting Tunisian crochet and changing color at the end of the return row. Here it is on yarn, and you can see how it gives it a really beautiful woven effect. Only we're going to do that with gold and silver crochet wire today. You're going to need two colors. You could pick gold and black wire. You could pick raspberry and silver wire. You could pick any two colors you like. You're just going to need to make sure it's 28 gauge. We're also going to be using one of these really cool magnetic clasps. And if you don't know where to order them, you can find information about that on my website. We're also going to be using a size C crochet hook, which is 2.75 millimeter, and we're going to be using a steel crochet hook that's a size 14. It's really small, and the reason we're using it is so that we can slip stitch the wire right onto the magnetic clasp without having to sew, and the head of the crochet hook is small enough to fit right through the holes so that we can slip stitch it right on, so it's going to be a completely seamless project. Let's get started. You want to pick one of the colors to get started. Also, if you wanted to just do this in one color, it is absolutely completely fine to do this in one color, and the only difference will be that you do not change color before the return row. That's it. Everything else about this video is identically the same, so you could do this with one color or with two colors of wire. Make sure to go to my website to get the free pattern. It'll be described in full line-by-line details for you to follow along. And now you want to tie the wire to your crochet hook, and you want to start when we're using the larger crochet hook to start. Remember, we're only using the tiny one for joining the wire to the holes on the clasp, and we'll be doing that at the end. For the actual bracelet, we're using the larger crochet hook, size C. So we started with tying the yarn to the crochet hook, and we're going to chain 14 times. There is definitely a learning curve to learning how to crochet with wire versus crocheting with yarn. And one of the things that I would like to point out is this is not the time to use your expensive crochet hooks, something that's made out of wood or bamboo, because the wire is really rough and you could scratch or damage the finish. So you want to use your metal crochet hooks, and to keep your stitches uniform, it's important that you slide the stitch all the way to the middle of the shaft of the crochet hook, because this is where the crochet hook is the widest. And so what happens is as you're pulling your tension, you could end up getting your loop only the size of the tiny part of the hook over here, and that won't give you a very even tension. It won't give you even stitches, and it can sometimes be impossible to reach your crochet hook in there to do future stitches. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, we've got 6 so far. We want 14 total. Okay, so now I have 14 stitches, or 14 chains, and if you notice, I was not only sliding my crochet hook all the way down to get the hole loose, but I was also kind of manipulating the wire so that the stitches would all face forward. You want them to all face in the same direction. Crocheting with wire is a lot different than crocheting with yarn because the wire has a mind of its own. It's not nearly as pliable or soft, obviously, so it does take a little more manipulation to get things to go the way you want them to go. Okay, the first row begins with yarn over your hook, insert your hook into the third chain from your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, that's 1/2 of a double crochet. Remember, we're doing Tunisian double crochet, not regular double crochet, which means we're doing partial stitches, working them all across the row, and then in the return row, finishing the second half of all those stitches. So yarn over, insert your hook in the next chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and our next stitch is partially completed. Okay, we're yarn over, insert our hook into the next chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and that's what it'll look like now. Yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, so now we have the next partially completed double crochet done. So yarn over, insert your hook in the next chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, you want to repeat this all the way across the row. Okay, we've reached the end of our row and we should have 13 loops on our crochet hook. Now if you're going to do this in one color, you're not going to change color at this point. If you're going to do this in 2 colors, this is the point where you change color. It's always going to be when you have all your loops on your crochet hook and on the right hand side before you do your return portion of the Tunisian crochet. So we're going to grab some of our second wire. I think I said change yarn, but I think you know what I mean. Change wire. So we're going to do our return row with the second color of wire, which is silver, instead of the first color of wire, which is gold. If you're doing this in one color, you don't have to do this. You're going to just follow along and do the steps without changing the wire. So the first stitch is to yarn over and pull through 1 loop on your hook. Then the second one is yarn over, pull through 2 loops on your hook. And yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. We're basically going to repeat yarn over, pull through 2 across the entire row. I find that Tunisian crochet is a lot easier than regular crochet with wire because you have these great vertical bars that make it really easy to understand where to put your stitches. And you'll see what I mean in a minute here. Okay, so this is what it looks like after we've done our return row. And you can see we've got gold on the bottom and now silver on the top. The next row starts with a chain 2. Chain 2 counts as our first stitch, so we're going to skip that first vertical bar and we're going to work into the second vertical bar. So yarn over, insert your hook into that second vertical bar, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, like that. Yarn over, insert your hook in the next vertical bar, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, insert your hook in the next vertical bar, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, insert your hook in the next vertical bar, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And you want to repeat that across the entire row until we're back to our original 13 loops on our crochet hook. Sometimes the last stitch is hard to recognize, so I like to count just before I think I'm at the end to make sure I've got the right number of stitches. I think that's my last stitch, so I want to make sure that I have 12 loops on my crochet hook. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 12, so I'm ready to do my last stitch. Yarn over, insert your hook into the vertical bar of the last stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. Oops, I think I pulled too many loops. Let me back that out. Okay, I now have 13 loops on my crochet hook, which means I've done the right number of stitches for my second row of Tunisian double crochet. And now, because I'm doing this in 2 colors, I'm going to switch back to my original color. If you're doing this in only 1 color, you would just continue on without switching wire. So the first stitch of the return is yarn over, pull through 1 stitch, like that, and then yarn over, pull through 2 loops. My loop isn't long enough, so I want to adjust it. There we go. Yarn over, pull through 2. We're going to do that across the entire row. Yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, and now we have our next row complete, and that's what it looks like. Okay, so now we're going to repeat the last row, because that's what we repeat now for the rest of the project until it's time for finishing. We're going to chain 2, which counts as your first stitch, which means we're going to skip that first vertical bar because of the chain 2. Then yarn over, insert the crochet hook into the next vertical bar, like that. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And it will look like that. If it's hard for you to see the crochet wire when you're working, this is a great time for extra lighting, glasses if you think you might need them, glasses even if you think you might not need them. I don't always wear glasses, but when I crochet with light colored wire, I need extra lighting and some sort of magnifying glasses. It's just a little bit too light and too hard for me to see, but boy is it worth the extra effort, because when these bracelets are done, they are complete showstoppers. Okay, we now have 13 stitches or loops back on our crochet hook, and it's time to do the return. So just a quick reminder, if you're doing this in one color, you're just going to do the return as normal. And if you're changing color, you want to switch to your second color of wire for the return. And the return is the same as it was before. Yarn over, pull through one loop for the first stitch, and then for the rest of the row, it's yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So go ahead and finish or repeat doing these 2 rows. If you're doing it in 2 color, you want to repeat the last 2 rows. If you're doing it in 1 color, you only have to repeat 1 row. Oh, I missed a stitch, so I'm just going to pick it back up. That's the beauty of wire, is if it's dropped, it doesn't go anywhere. You can just pick it right back up. You just want to repeat this for your desired length, and we'll touch base after that, and I will show you how to join this beautiful crochet bracelet to the magnetic clasp without sewing. Okay, so we're at the end of row 17. We've done 17 rows of the Tunisian double crochet, alternating color from silver to gold at the section where we finished the first half of a Tunisian row, but before we start the return row. So we've been changing color on the right side of our work. And you can see we've got these beautiful stripes that are slightly woven. And now we're doing our last row, row 17, which is a gold row. I cut the silver, and at the end I'll show you how we weave in our ends. It's super easy. You don't need a yarn needle for it. Isn't that cool? So we're going to do our last return row in the same color as our work. So it's yarn over, pull through 1 loop. Like I said, there's definitely a learning curve to working with wire, but the more you do it, the better you'll get at it, and the results are just absolutely stunning. So then we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 for the remainder of the row. Okay, so now when we finish Tunisian crochet in general, we always do a slip stitch across the top of that last row just to secure it in place. Well, we're going to take that opportunity to use that slip stitch row for joining our magnetic clasp. I want to set this down so I can explain the positioning of the metallic clasp. Okay, and it's not always intuitive how to do this. So the clasp joins, you see there's a female and male, a hole and a prong on this one, and then there's a hole and a prong on this one, and they're oppositely placed so that the hole goes into, or the prong goes into the hole on each side of the magnet. So, but once you open this up and place the prongs on the side that's going to be joining, like that, sometimes it's easy to make the mistake of making them look identical, like a mirror. See how I've got the prong facing up on both sides? You want to make sure you don't do that. If the prong is facing up on this side, make sure it's facing down on this side. And we'll have to double check that when we get to joining the second one. Obviously, when we're joining the first one, it doesn't matter. It can be either way. But when we go to join the second one, we want to make sure that it's the opposite of the first, so that they join perfectly. Okay, so in order to slip stitch across this row, we're going to be slip stitching into the vertical bars like we've done before. And now we have 13 bars on here, right? We have 13 stitches, and we have 4 prongs on here. So to figure out where to place it, we're going to say 13 minus 4 is 9. 9 divided by 2 would be 4 and 5. So what I'm going to do is slip stitch across in the first stitch we skip. So we're going to slip stitch across the next 4. So we're going to slip stitch into the second vertical bar, then the third, the next one, and the next one. Okay, now in each of the next 4 slip stitches, we're going to work with our tinier crochet hook because we want to be able to get it through the holes of the clasp. So we're going to insert our crochet hook into the next vertical bar and got extra wire, and into the first hole on our clasp. And we're going to pull the wire through the hole on the clasp. This takes some practice, and just be patient with yourself. It's not the easiest thing to do. It gets a little bit wonky, but the results are so amazing because it's seamless and it just is very secure. So it is worth the time it takes to have some patience and get it to go all the way through. So we do 1 continuous slip stitch through the vertical bar and the clasp. So we'll insert our crochet hook into the next vertical bar on the bracelet and the next hole on the clasp, yarn over our tiny little crochet hook, not yarn over, wire over, pull it through the clasp. Again, this takes a couple of tries sometimes, but don't be mad at yourself. It's happening to me too. It happens to everybody. And through the vertical bar and the loop on your hook, and we've got our second slip stitch complete. We'll go into the third vertical bar and the third hole on the clasp, yarn over, pull through the hole on the clasp, the vertical bar, and the loop on our crochet hook, and the third one is complete. We'll do our last one. Insert your hook into the last vertical bar on the crochet bracelet, through the last hole on the clasp, yarn over your wire, pull through the hole, got it, and through the vertical bar. Oh, I missed the vertical bar, so now that we have it through, I'm going to go back, grab the vertical bar, see if I can do this without losing. I'd rather not lose it, so let's see if I can fix it. So okay, so I re-picked up the vertical bar, pull the loop from through the clasp, through the vertical bar and the crochet and the loop on our crochet hook. So now we have all 4 stitches joined to the clasp. I elongated the loop so I can now put my larger crochet hook back through it, and you can see our clasp is joined. We'll now slip stitch across the remaining of the row. Now, if you preferred, you could cut your wire and repeat this for the opposite side of the bracelet, or you could continue on and slip stitch across both vertical side edges of the bracelet and then continue on in one piece along to the other side, which is what I've done in the past with other crochet bracelets. In this black Tunisian double crochet bracelet, it has a different kind of clasp on it, but what I did was a chain 2 and slip stitch 2 times in each of the double crochet rows across till we get to the other side, and that's what I'll show you how to do now. So you want to pick 2 spots in each row, and it's pretty easy to do. Just pick 2 different, and because it's 2 color, it's really easy to figure it out too. But just pick 2 loops along the side of the row in each color and slip stitch in both of them. And then we're now to the silver, so we're going to slip stitch in 2 spots along that row. Just kind of tightens up our stitches in each of those rows. Slip stitch is a great way to firm up your work. We'll also be flattening the bracelet to harden it at the end of the project, which when you're working with jewelry and wire, it's just a great way to make your finished piece a little bit more secure and stable. If you were using heavier wire, it's helpful to use an anvil or a hammer, but today I'm just going to be using my fingers. Okay, so we're just going to continue on and work 2 slip stitches in the end of each double crochet row, and after that I'll show you how to join the opposite side of the clasp to the opposite side of the bracelet. Okay, we're ready to join the opposite clasp, the opposite piece of the clasp to the opposite side of the bracelet. And we just want to double check that if the prong is facing down on this side, we want the prong to be facing up on this side. So we'll make sure that now that we're turning our work, that means the prong is facing to the right. We want to make sure it stays in that position as we work. So that's just our reference now, and we're going to start with move those tails out of our way. Okay, we're going to slip stitch. We're in the corner stitch or chain, so we're going to slip stitch across the next 4. Now we'll switch to our smaller crochet hook. Ah, where did it go? Okay, so we want to make sure our prong is facing the right. We're going to slip stitch into the next chain on the bracelet and the first prong or hole on the clasp, and we're going to slip stitch through both of them. So yarn over, grab it with the tiny little hook, pull through the hole, pull through the chain and the loop on the crochet hook, like that. Okay, so now we'll go into our next chain and our second hole on the clasp, yarn over, wire over with the crochet hook, pull it through the hole on the clasp, through the chain, and then through the loop on our hook. Okay, we'll do that with the next chain and the next hole on the clasp. Pulling the wire through the hole on the clasp, through the chain on the bracelet, and through the loop on our crochet hook. Almost. There we go. Got it all the way through. Okay, so now we'll go to the next chain, the last hole on our clasp, yarn over our wire over our hook, pull it through everything. There we go. So now we can go back to our regular size crochet hook and slip stitch in every chain across. Okay, so now we've made it across, and we're now going to finish up by crocheting. Let me fix it. So now we're going to finish up by slip stitching 2 times along each end of the last side of the bracelet. And this is the side that needs closing up the most, because this is the side that had the chain 2 at the beginning of each row. So this will help tighten it up. Okay, we've made it back up to the beginning. We're now going to cut the wire. Don't want to use your fanciest scissors when cutting wire. It could damage them a little bit, so just any of your regular general craft scissors would be best. And we'll fasten that off. Okay, now before we weave in our ends, I want to show you that the way that you would harden this type of a project is with your fingers. You want to try to get the fabric as flat as possible. If you are really gentle with a rubber mallet or an anvil or a hammer, you could actually layer the bracelet between two washcloths or two soft towels and then press on it with a hammer, but you don't want to just hit it with a hammer. I made that mistake on my first bracelet and I actually damaged the bracelet. I cut some of the wire. So the wire is not, it's too delicate for being really rough with it, but in order to harden your work, you do want to smash it down. And that will keep the bracelet a little more protected from your everyday wear. Okay, then for weaving in our loose ends, it's super simple. It's just like you would with a yarn needle, but you don't need a yarn needle. So we're just going to work back and forth in multiple directions, just weaving it through. You want to try to get into the tight spaces. The tight spaces would work best for making it harder for it to come back out. Okay, so you want to weave back and forth in as many directions as possible and do that for a couple of inches, and then you have a pretty secure weaving in of your ends. I'll cut this one real short, and then